Alright guys, so today I'm going to be working on the mower that I kind of showed off in my last video a little bit. I've actually already mowed the lawn with it once. Works pretty good. But I checked the oil and it really needs to be changed. So I'm going to be doing that today. And I think I'm also going to tinker around with the carburetor, at least drop the bowl. Part of what I want to do on this channel is kind of show people that you don't need all this stuff that you see on other, on TV shows, on YouTube channels. You don't need all that fancy stuff. I've got a decent chunk of my tools is in this toolbox, and it's a total mess. It's just an old rusty toolbox, and then just whatever else I've got on this bench. I don't have all that many tools. I've kind of just, got what I've accumulated over the years. But yeah, I'm gonna first things first with this, because if you don't know, the oil change on push lawnmowers is almost always on the bottom, underneath, where the mower is, where the blades are. So my first thing that I would always recommend that people do is take out your spark plug. In this case, I've already unplugged it. A little tight on there. Try not to ding any of these cooling fins. Like I said, I mowed with it, so I made sure to tighten this back up. So you want to make sure they're at least somewhat tight. This one appears to have tightened up a little bit, probably because the seasons have changed since I used it. But you want to remove these, because if you don't, there's a chance, slim chance, but if you're spinning the blade out of the way, there's a chance that you could create a spark by turning it over and then start the engine. And even if it makes one or two revolutions, you're going to lose a finger. So, you want to do that just for safety. It's like wearing your safety glasses where you're grinding. You may feel dumb, like, oh, I'm no wuss. I'll work on it without taking the spark plug out, and then you lose your fingers. Well, if you'd have swallowed your pride, you would have been okay. But yeah, it's a little dirty on this one. I might polish that up a little bit, clean it up. But it's not too bad. That's one of those things with spark plugs. People always notice that people always blame the spark plugs for going bad on stuff. Goes, the spark plug's bad, spark plug's bad. They almost never go bad unless they crack on the porcelain here. So they almost never go bad. You just have to clean them. They get dirty and they get wet. If they're wet, you're flooded, and then you got to let it dry. And if you don't let it dry, it won't work. So you just got to treat them right. But so other than that, taking that out, making sure that we don't, lose fingers. Like I said, it's on the bottom, almost always. Oh, just remember, I'm going to put it over the other way. There we go. So you can see under here, this right here is, I am pretty sure that's the oil drain plug. So this is that thing I was talking about. Say you were to spin this, there is magic electronics, basically. It's magnets that will create a spark in these engines. That's why they don't need a battery. And if you were to do this fast enough, it's exactly the same as pulling it, which in a push mower, anywhere newer than, like, I don't know, the 50s probably, you need to pull the bail handle right there to actually get it to spark. It won't close. I'll say close the circuit to create a spark if you don't do that. But never hurts to be safe, to make sure that when you spin this, it doesn't fire off, comes spinning around at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and then you lose your fingers. So I'm gonna get set up really quick and make sure to get all the oil pan and everything nearby and the wrenches and everything, and then I'll see you then. Alright, so got my drain pan underneath, get everything kind of set up for that, got my wrench and everything. So it's just the same kind of thing as with a car. They're mostly bulletproof, these old engines. Like, this is an 84 here, but still, clean it up, clean around it, because you're going to save yourself a whole bunch of pain if this thing were to ever, if this stuff gets in there. gets in with the oil, it can muddle stuff up, because these don't have things like oil filters. It kind of just, most of them don't anyway. They kind of just deal. So whatever you put in there is staying in there. So you don't want to get a bunch of mud and, you know, what used to be, you know, halfway between grass and coal at this point with this mower. Like this stuff. You don't want that in there. That's really gross and nasty. I'm back. So yeah, I'm not a big stickler for the getting everything super clean. So I got it mostly clean. That's all I really care about. In this case, so basically, as you can see, this is upward now. The oil fill is basically directly above this in like normal land. Right now it's not, but my hope is that all this oil is pooled down here. We'll see if that's the case. But basically, you just, you know, good old-fashioned turn it with a wrench. Hopefully, there we go. See if I can get a good look at it for you guys. Oh boy. Yep, that's the oil fill. Wasn't entirely sure going into this if it was or not. And now I'm going to put this down so I don't make a massive mess. I'm just going to tip it down and drain it into this drain pan. Now that it's draining into the drain pan, I'll get on to the other thing that I was going to do with this mower. When I was mowing with it, it kind of just wanted to be on full throttle all the time. It would just die unless I had it just like pinned to fast, which really shouldn't need to happen. In this case, it's stuck in one gear because it's a self-driven, self-propelled, which I haven't gotten around to fixing yet because it's all bent. This you can mess around with it. Ooh, maybe I won't do that. But basically, this rod here kind of controls it all. And well, let's see. Let me show you. It comes up here. There's a good angle on it. It's really bent, and you're supposed to twist it from this side. So it doesn't really like to do that anymore. At some point I'll probably fix that, but at this point my yard's not big enough for me to really bother. Just it working is enough. But anyway, tangent over. I wanted to tweak, well not tweak, but kind of do a little maintenance on the carburetor, which is right here. Now if you watch, you know, Cars and Cameras, Junkyard Digs, any of those guys, you may think like, oh, this carburetor stuff, like, I'm not going to bother. Like, that's way over my head, you know. It's, you know, and for the most part, like, for a lot of folks, me included, that's kind of true. It's kind of a pain, but, you know, they're finicky, and especially these older ones, it's like, if you were to lose parts, you just don't want to. Like, I've messed around with old stuff before, and then you mess up a tube or something, it's like, well, crap, I don't have the parts for that. Like, where am I going to find them? This thing's from the 70s or the 80s. So, you know, a lot of times it's just like, it works, I'll just leave it, just let it be. But the easiest one you can do is to take the bowl off, which is not hard to do at all. You just, in this case, put on a ratchet. Wrong way. Well, maybe that was the right way. Two hands. Ah, there we go. Oh, well, there's a problem. Oh, grab the rags. So yeah, the bowl is full of gas. That's just how it is most of the time. And that's actually the reason that I'm taking it off. So, as you can see, it spilled gas all over the place. That gas has been sitting in there for a while. I probably mowed a month ago was the last time, because our lawn's not very good. And that gas is still in there. So in my case, I put stable in the gas, so it's pretty good. It's not too much to worry about. But this thing was sitting idle for years before I got it. So this thing could have, you know, Lord knows what in the bottom of the bowl. So yeah, you pull this out. I'm not one for carburetors, like taking them apart. So if you know what this is, like why it has, can't really see it. It's got a little pin in the middle there. If you know what it is, let me know in the comments. Tell me what it is. But yeah, pull that off. Ah, here we go. Good example. This one's a good one for this. Hang on, I got gas all over my hands now. Try to be your own cameraman with gas all over the place. It's difficult. So this here is the float. You know, just to describe it for the 5th time for probably most of you. This is the float, which in this case is very much a little, I don't even know what metal it is, probably tin, super thin, weighs nothing. And as that lifts in there, it shuts off the jet, which is just, well, a jet of fuel. It allows fuel in this case, gravity fed. And then as it comes down, it opens back up again. That's literally all it does. And this is what it's measuring in, is the ball. And in this case, let me just dump it out quick. So in my case, it's actually pretty clean. It's a little nasty around the edges, but it doesn't have a bunch of gunk in the bottom. So basically the guy I got this from actually took care of his stuff, which is great. So now to put it back on, I can just stick that back on there. Do that. Oops, sorry, not really showing you there. And screw it back in. There. So in this case, this will probably require actually taking this off and, you know, doing a full clean out of it. But I'm probably going to mow the lawn this weekend, so I really don't want to get into that now because I don't really have time to finish it tonight. But at the very least it runs. And now I can get back to the oil change, which will basically just be finishing up. This is the easy part, is you just take your drain plug, which in this case, don't forget the gasket. Oop, butterfingers. And if you're able, there we go, you can screw it right back in. And then make sure to tighten it back up again. Man, I made a mess out of this one. The oil everywhere. Don't tighten it too tight. Don't be that person. I just recently had to change the oil in one of the cars, and the guy screwed it on so freaking tight that it was near impossible to get off. Don't be that guy. Nobody likes that guy. If by chance one of the people listening to this works at Pronto or something, don't screw those on super tight. It's such a pain to get them off. Or even worse, the oil filters on a car. Goodness. Like, having to buy special tools to get it off is such a pain for anybody who wants to do it themselves. So yeah, anyways, don't tighten it too tight. I may have actually overdid it there just a tiny bit, but just don't over tighten it too much. Just tight enough that it doesn't feel like it's going to leak. And so in this case, the engine oil all goes in here. That's going to differ based on what you have. So mine is, you know, this is an 84, so pretty old. But so it's got like the big long dipstick, which if you've never done it before, you're filling it. And the way you normally look at it is you take the dipstick and you look at it with between full or add and OK there. And then you can look at it and see, oh, does it look nasty? Does it look like the stereotypical motor oil, or does it look new? And I'll show you what new looks like in a bit. But in a lot of the newer ones, the oil, fill, and dipstick will actually be somewhere down here on any of the sides of the block. But it'll be a little spout here, a little plastic thing that you take out, and you just check on that. And that's how you would check the oil. Alright, so now I'm back with the funnel in there already. Trying to be my own cameraman, so I gotta take a little time off to get stuff ready. But yeah, so in this case, I'm putting in this kind of engine oil. This one, it needs 5W30. Most these little engines will take 5W30 or something similar. And then, so in this case, you know, just got the cheapest stuff I could, really. With zinc. That's half a quart of that one. Take out the funnel. Try not to make too much of a mess. And just dipstick right back in. Take it right back out. In this case, can't really tell. Even with my naked eye, I can't really tell. But that's kind of how it is. Sometimes you got to wait for the oil to settle a little bit, or you can actually read your dipstick. Yep, so you can, oh man, you really can't see this on camera. It's glaring too much. There we go. So you can kind of see where it stops glimmering there is right in the middle. Let me see better. Yeah, there we go. That's a good one. So you can kind of see it stop glimmering a bit above add. So that's half a quart. So make sure, if you do something stupid like I just did, there's a bunch of sawdust on this bench. Don't get a bunch of sawdust on your dipstick and stick it back in there. Or like the other thing I had was dirty. The funnel was dirty. Don't stick it back in there when it's dirty. Clean it first. Because like I said with these small engines, they don't have a fuel filter. So if you put a bunch of gunk in there, it's never coming out. So it'll either wear out. If you're lucky, you'll have to change your oil sooner. If you're unlucky, it'll eat your engine, depending on what is in there. In this case, it would have been sawdust. Not the worst thing, but if you were to put rocks in there, it would really hurt stuff. Or metal shavings. So yeah, double checking real quick. That's right in the middle actually, now that it's settled. So I'm going to leave it right there for now, just so I don't overdo it. But yeah, that's how to change the oil in your lawnmower. It's going to be, that's basically universal across any push lawnmower that you got. Any small, anything single cylinder basically, that'll work for. So, yeah, I guess I'll probably, you know, for the heck of it, do a little startup. Put the spark plug back in and start it up for you guys, just so you can hear it run. So this is the part where I say, don't do what I do. You're never supposed to start these things indoors. That's just not what you're supposed to do. You can actually get pretty hurt, but for the sake of the video, I'm doing it inside because it is pitch black outside. There's not anything that needs to move, so I can just, you know, start it up in here and shut it off. Hopefully no harm, no foul. So, here we go. So yeah, that's how to get it running. Or not get it running, but you know, make sure it stays running, at least to the most part. Except for the carburetor thing, that's mostly, you know, general maintenance. If it's not running right, you could try that. Just a little tip, you know. Mostly though is just changing the oil. And that's something you should do every once in a while. You should check the oil whenever you mow. Most, you know, who does that? It's like when they say like, oh, you should check all your lights and your oil every time you drive your car. But who's going to do that? So, anyways, hope you enjoyed.